The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Well, we've just celebrated the festival of Achalanatha Bodhisattva, great king of light, who sits still in the midst of the flames of greed, anger, and delusion. So it seems kind of fitting to talk about the 8 winds, the 8 worldly conditions, because similarly, you sit still right in the middle, right in the midst of it all. So the 8 winds, the 8 worldly conditions are gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame, and elation and sorrow. And they're always there. They're always with us. We never get away from them. One of these winds is always blowing, or sometimes more, in one way or another. And they're called winds because they blow through our lives. They can blow very strongly. They're very compelling. And if we let them, they can blow us over. And they're called the 8 worldly conditions also because they're just the conditions of life in our world. We're always gaining something or losing something. We're always feeling praised or blamed or something. There's always something going on, always joy and sorrow and so on. Always something. There's always some kind of a wind blowing. Very rarely is it completely calm. And sometimes it is, but not for long. And this is not a bad thing. We're not trying to get away from the conditions of our lives. We're trying to learn to live within them and not get blown over. We're not trying to become feelingless vegetables. We just don't want to get uprooted or blown over by the wind. And fundamentally, really they're all things of the mind. It's how we look at them, how we accept them that makes the difference, how we relate to them. Gain and loss. Well, we all know what it's like. When we're about to get something we want or we think we need, here's a nice thing from the mail order company, which won't be nameless. And we're happy. We can be happy when we get something. We get a nice new car. Lovely, lovely, But we know it won't be new forever. It won't be quite perfect. And we know it won't make us happy forever. Perfect contentment for the rest of my life because I got a new car. Well, not really, Or the new thing isn't quite what we were hoping for. It doesn't quite fit. It doesn't quite work. Maybe it'll do. It's not quite bad enough to send it back, but And if we know all this and we accept it, then that's fine. We don't have to worry. We don't have to feel all completely crushed because our nice new thing didn't make us happy forever. We know it won't, actually. Placing our happiness in something that passes, that's fleeting, that's suffering. A new relationship, in a way, is kind of the same thing, as I hate to say it. It won't be quite perfect. It won't make us completely happy. We have to work on it. Any new relationship with anybody, whether it's a partner, a child, a parent, or whatever, we have to work on our relationships to make them work, to help, to do our part, not just expect this other person to make us happy. Because that doesn't really work, We give to the relationship, we give to the other person. Nobody can be the source of our happiness and contentment completely. We have to do that for ourselves. And if we cling to another person too much, thinking they're going to make us happy, we create suffering, both for them and for us. Losing something, that's gaining, losing something. Well, we all know what it's like to lose something as well. Our nice new shiny car gets totaled. We're lucky if we walk away. Or we lose our house in a fire or something. It's a sad thing to happen to anybody. It's really. But there's so many things we lose. Things come our way and then they're gone, So what do we do? To remember this is not the source of my happiness. It's not the source of misery either. It's not, I don't invest completely in my nice new car or my nice new house or my nice new relationship or my nice new anything. We need to actually have some stillness and kind of integrity of our own, sitting still, Somebody who's lost a house in a fire or a flood, they often will say, I'm so lucky. I lost my house, but I have my family and we're all safe. And that's the thing. They realize that's the most important, more important to them than having a thing. And our family will be gone too. We'll be gone, to remember that nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. And this is the great blessing. Nothing lasts forever, just as well. But then losing our relationships, somebody we love swept away in a flood or in an accident, or have sickness, you die of sickness, or just a sudden death, or they simply leave us. They don't love us anymore. What do we do? Are we going to be completely destroyed? Our life is over because we don't have this relationship anymore. We have to find our strength within ourselves. And sometimes a loss or a tragedy can turn our life around, actually. We stop investing in that person or whatever. Sometimes it can bring us to the Dharma. Great Master Dogen, he was 12 years old when his mum died. And he realized, he saw the smoke rising, the incense smoke rising at her funeral, so it said, and realized, nothing lasts, and he became a monk. He saw that at a very young age. And they said there can be something good that comes out of a loss after all, even though we don't think we will, we don't think we'll get over it, we do, we get over these things. Because the key is acceptance. Well, it seems easier to accept the gains, the nice things, the things we like, but true acceptance means seeing their fleeting nature, that they're not the source of our happiness and joy and security. And we can love them and we can enjoy them all the more, maybe, because we don't grasp onto them quite so tightly. Accepting the losses in our lives can be quite, really hard. When somebody leaves us or dies, but it's the only way, There's that story of Kusakatami and the mustard seed. Her child dies in the time of the Buddha. And she says, bring back my child, cure my child. She couldn't believe that it had died. So we all know the story. He tells her to go and get a mustard seed from any house where nobody has died. She says, okay, he goes off to do that. And at every house, of course, somebody has died. And she comes back with no mustard seeds at all. And she realizes, everybody has people die. She realizes her child has died. She has to just accept it. This is how life is. It's a much better gift than trying to bring back her child, because she could see that life is short. You cannot prevent death, sickness, old age, and so forth. And she became a nun, one of the Buddha's disciples. So it really turned her life around. And nobody would want that, but that having happened, what can you do? To see it and accept it and face it, To sit still in the midst of grief and loss, no matter how it is, or anger and despair, just to sit still in the midst of it and let the wind just blow through. It's an empty wind, it's just wind. Then we have fame and disgrace, our next two winds. Great gain and loss, fame and disgrace. Well, fame is a very powerful wind, very pervasive. The higher you grow, the stronger it seems to blow. You've seen this. And it doesn't just mean becoming wildly successful, the whole world looks at you. It also means being thought well of by your friends or your peers, being respected, being seen to have the qualities that you value. Our wish to be thought well of is extremely strong. Another story I remember is a story of a village where they had the water had dried up. The village was on top of a hill, and there was a river down below. It's quite a long way to walk, but the river had been a nice river. Now it was a miserable little muddy trickle where all the cows came and drank and pooped in it probably, and horrible muddy stuff, but that's what they had. So the village women every day would go down the hill, long walk, and come back with these great big loads of water, with which they would make beer for their husbands. And there was one woman that the reporter was, because in National Geographic, the reporter was talking to this lady. She said, why did you do this? It's really hard. She came down with a woman and saw she couldn't carry all her water, so the village woman carried hers as well as her own. And she said, how come you do all this? And the village woman said, if I didn't do this, they would think I wasn't a good wife, and I wouldn't be respected. So she does all this several times a day, actually, that we might think, in our culture, might think is daft, because you didn't want to be castigated, thought ill of. And you can see how, and we're all like this, how much power that wish to be respected or thought well of or to be admired, just thought well of actually, how strong that is for all of us, And wishing to be thought well of has positive aspects, because we're more likely to obey the law, to be honest, to treat others kindly and respectfully and so on. It's not a substitute for the precepts, but it helps us to keep to the precepts. And it can help us just to live a decent life, just wanting to be respected and thought well of. It's not the greatest of motives, but it's something, And it can be negative. If we feel pushed into doing something that we feel is wrong, but we don't know how to not do that or how to get out of it, to be, stick out like a sore thumb. No, I'm not going to do that. It's hard to do that, Going along with something in our work we don't think is right, just so we don't want to make waves or stick out. To look at the mind, What is my motive here? Why am I doing this? What am I afraid of? What am I trying to do here? What's my purpose here? Am I just going along with things that I think are wrong, or is it actually good to do this thing? Not letting that wind just blow us around, that wind of not wanting to be thought ill of. Seeing it for what it is. I'm just trying to conform, or just trying to do what's expected, And sometimes it's good to do the thing, of course. But letting that wind just blow through us, not to be pushed off by the desire to be thought well of. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to stand up for something and not just get blown around by other people's opinions. It can be really hard to do that. But sometimes we have to do that. Fame and disgrace. Disgrace, again. It doesn't have to be a dramatic thing of being put in prison and, people throwing stones at you. It's just simple embarrassment, Death before embarrassment, I know that. It's a very compelling motivator, actually, not just for Brits. Because we can look at disgrace in the light of fame, If fame is being thought well of, well, disgrace is being thought poorly of. And the qualities we value, to be seen or to feel that we haven't lived up to them. To being thought to be stupid or foolish or self-serving or dishonest or whatever, to fall short. Again, looking at the mind, what's our motive? Why am I doing this, And why am I upset? There's disgrace in our own eyes, feeling we've let ourselves down. I've done something that I don't think is very honourable. Not just disgrace in the eyes of others, but in ourselves, feeling that we ourselves have fallen short. Done something dishonourable, breaking the precepts, something like that. And to sit still and look at it directly, not sort of, but actually look, that wasn't right, that wasn't good. Can I make amends? Can I apologize? Or at the very least, just to look at it honestly and say, yes, that was not good to do. I'm sorry. Not to make excuses, just look at it and accept it. It's really helpful. And let the wind just blow through, not to get pushed off into trying to justify ourselves or make excuses for ourselves and all that, Praise and blame. Or when somebody praises us, it's just the wind blowing, sounds nice, but, and if we stand up and get all inflated, well, we just get blown over like a balloon, And then the wind dies down. Nobody's taking any notice of us. Where are we? Lying on our side, blown over by the wind, in the mud probably. Because praise is a very unstable wind. It comes in little gusts. Somebody says something nice to us. Oh, that's nice. Then somebody else blames us for something. Oh, it's not so good. Praise, blame, praise, blame. To sit still, let that wind just blow by or blow through and not completely believe in it. Not completely believe when somebody says, that's wonderful, wonderful. Of course, some of us can't hear praise. We can only hear blame. Somebody says something nice to us. We think, oh, they're just saying that. And we disregard it. She's my mother. She loves me, no matter what I do, But if we're blamed, we might take it very personally. feeling completely wounded and crushed. Oh God, I'm just a terrible person. Or they think I'm a terrible person. Well, it's a little on one-sided, because we need to sit still with both praise and blame, When we're blamed, it's often really hard to sit still and just accept it. We want to jump up and just justify ourselves. No, I didn't do that. No, there's a reason for that. This is what I did. No, it wasn't what I think, Defend ourselves. But if we look and sit still, is this true? Is there some truth in this criticism, even if I think it's not quite fair? Is there some little kernel of truth in there? If I didn't do it this time, have I done it some other time? Do I have a tendency to do that? Look at it, We can learn. Shantideva says, I must accept the criticisms of others as though they were the sweet dew, and see those who blame me as my friends. This is not easy, but you know what he means, because actually, when somebody criticizes us, they're actually offering us a gift. Because if nobody did, we wouldn't learn anything. We wouldn't learn very well. We might learn from our own mistakes, but when somebody blames us for something, maybe I can learn something here, and not get all defensive about it, but just listen, well, is there some truth in this? And not just push it away. We can learn from criticism, we can see our mistakes and change. We can learn patience and acceptance, and not just get angry and defensive. Even if the person's completely wrong, they've totally misunderstood us, well, I can sit still, I can be patient. I don't have to justify myself. Not easy. And then there's blaming ourselves. It's harder than getting blamed from other people. Blaming ourselves. It's so hard sometimes to let that go. Things we've done, for years and years ago. But then we can still hold on to blame. Oh, I did that so many years ago. Oh, if I hadn't done that, I feel so bad about that. And the other person, if you hurt somebody, they've probably long forgotten. But we may still carry it around. Can we see it and just accept it and learn from it and let it go? Because it's not helpful to keep blaming ourselves for something. It's not wisdom. It just gets in the way and it causes us more suffering. But if you can learn, just look at it and learn and let it go. Really helps. Acceptance once again. Looking at the blame straight on, whether somebody is blaming us or we're blaming ourselves. See where there's truth in it and accept it with kindness, not with judgment. Because if we resist the wind, it just blows us over. And we let it blow through by sitting still. We won't get uprooted. All these things. Looking at our motives, as with fame and disgrace. Am I doing this to be praised? Or to be thought well of? Or am I doing it because it's good to do? Whatever it might be, Then we have elation and sorrow, joy and sorrow. We feel joy and we feel sorrow. They're part of our life. We're not trying to get away from them. We allow them to be there, and we allow them to pass like the wind, because you cannot hold on to either joy or sorrow, really. When the wind blows, we feel it, and sometimes it's very intense, and then it's gone. But we try to grasp onto our joys, to keep them, to prolong the moment, to get it back, and that doesn't work, because the very impermanence is what makes it joyful or beautiful. The sunset. If it was like that all the time, you wouldn't even notice, A little moment of joy. It's just a little ephemeral thing, and then it's gone. You can't get it back. A nice little experience in meditation, you can't get it back. Dogen says it's a bit like somebody on a ship. He loses his sword over the side, and he marks a spot on the rail where it's gone. Well, the sword's long gone, He's moved on. This is impermanence. You can't get that moment back. That's what he means by that. And even our memory of something, it isn't the thing itself. It's gone. Sometimes we grasp onto our sorrows and we won't let them go. We can make them our identity. I had this terrible thing happen, and yet and some awful things can happen. But we can keep dwelling on it. We keep pressing on the wound to see if it's still there, to see if it still hurts, Making sure we can still feel it, thinking, well, I shouldn't be getting over this because I'm, but actually we do need to get over things, to get on with our life, to live our life. If we've lost somebody, we don't have to feel crushed forever. It's okay to live our life. somebody we love who has died. They wouldn't want us to feel sad for the rest of our life. They want us to live our life, to let it go and move on. And all of these are just, again, gusts of wind, joy and sorrow. And if we just accept this very moment with whatever it brings us, is it a moment of joy or is it a sadness? Let it come and let it go. We feel it, we see it, we face it, and then it's gone. We don't cling on. And it might come back a moment later. If it's a deep sorrow, it keeps coming back. We keep letting go. We keep accepting it. We don't push it away. Just keep accepting it. Let it be there and let it go through. Let it go through. Over and over and over again. Completely. These are our 8 winds. They're always there. And they're winds because they're fundamentally empty. Just air. You can't see them. You can feel them, but they're empty. There's no real substance there. So we can feel the wind, we can see our mistakes, we do hurt people and we hurt ourselves, and we can learn something. We can learn from our mistakes, from other people's criticisms, from the praise and blame and all that. And we can practice patience and kindness, learn from these things, be kind to ourselves and to others, let go of judgments, enjoy the gifts we receive, and grieve over our losses. It's okay, we're human, We can feel joy and sorrow because we are human beings. And these things are part of life. We're not trying to be vegetables, as I said. But we can remain rooted in faith. Sit still in the midst of all these conditions and let the wind blow through. So, Achalanatha, sitting still on his rock in the midst of the fires of greed, hatred, or anger and delusion or ignorance. These are just conditions like the wind. They come and go. Joy and sorrow, greed, anger and delusion. It's all in a sense the same. The greed, anger and delusion are the internal things, our responses to things. And the 8 winds usually come from the outside. But how do we respond to them? You like the joyful things, our little greed, I like this new thing I've got, or I like this praise I get and so forth. And we try to push away things we don't like. Sorrow, loss, blame and so forth. That's ill will. We don't want that, We don't have to let any of these things pull us off our sitting place. They're just winds. The fires are just fires. They burn, they come, they go. Achalanatha doesn't heap more wood on his fire and he doesn't try and stamp out the flames. He just sits there and lets it burn because he knows it doesn't last. The winds, they don't last. Nothing lasts forever. We can sit still amidst all of it. In the fires of greed, anger and delusion, the winds of impermanence and all of this, and just put our trust in that which does not change, in that which sustains us and all beings, our true refuge. And that's our talk for the day. Thank you.